Let's say two things happen. Let's say they weren't able to link the phone up that well, and let's say Portland didn't testify. They'd have no case. They would literally have no case against Melly. You realize that?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I am a board-certified criminal defense lawyer, and I'm going to be commenting on the Melly case. This is another Melly update, and we are so graciously gifted because behind the camera is the content genius, otherwise known as Michael Rivers. So we're going to react to the Melly thing. But before we get to that, this is brought to you by eSign.com. eSign.com, a very effective way to remotely do business. Here's the thing. Sometimes you're not the first one called, but you're the first one to respond, right? And the sooner you can get an agreement with somebody on whether it's business or whatever, you can seal the deal and get things done quicker. And I use it all the time. eSign.com is an effective way to remotely do business. You download the app, you get 3 free signatures a month. I use it when somebody's out of town or they can't make it to the office, and you're able to seal a deal right away. So if it's not eSign, no one signs. eSign.com, very effective way to remotely do business. We are keeping up with the news, okay? So on Friday, the defense made a motion for a mistrial. And the motion for a mistrial was based upon statements made by the prosecutor in cross-examining Miss Holmes. Or actually, well, they called her, and so it was direct examination, but treating her as kind of a hostile witness. So if you remember last week when we had our little chat, I said it's very unlikely that the judge would dismiss the case based upon the defense motion. It's so rare that that ever happens. And so a judge would like to think that a curative instruction would be enough. And that's what happened in this case. The judge said, I'm going to deny your motion, but I am going to instruct the jury. And that's what he did. So now we have the trial resumes, right? Or does it? No, it didn't. It didn't resume right away because one of the jurors got sick. Because they were dehydrated. They didn't drink enough water. Well, here's the thing. You know, it's really important, especially in a really long trial like this, that you have enough alternates. So let's talk about what an alternate is. So you have 12 jurors, right? But a lot of times you have one or two or more extra jurors in case somebody gets sick. So rather than, kick that juror off, they delayed the trial and it started back up again at 1:30. But an alternate juror, they don't deliberate. So they get to the end of the case, you find out you're the alternate. Guess what? You have to go home. You don't get to deliberate. You're not part of the decision-making process. But they're super important because in case somebody gets sick or there's misconduct or a juror can't serve for one reason or another, then the alternate comes into play. Without those, you can't have less than 12 jurors, and you can't have less than an unanimous jury verdict. So what happens is you got to start all over again. So and courts freaking hate that. So that's what happened today. And then in addition to that, a few witnesses testified about cell phones. And cell phones and your digital leash is really what's going to play a huge role in where Melly was and when he was there. And now keep in mind, the only way they can tie that phone to Melly, because it's not in his name, remember, is if they have somebody, say that that's Melly's number or conversations that Melly had with other people where he's using that phone, and if they can track it with some of the video that's on. But Bortland, mark my words, Bortland is going to testify. I'd be shocked if he didn't testify. Because let's say two things happen. Let's say they weren't able to link the phone up that well, and let's say Bortland didn't testify. They'd have no case. They would literally have no case against Melly. You realize that? Remember, they've already gotten Bortland's statement in, the false statement in, but they've got nobody say that Melly had the gun in his hands and did the shooting. So right now, what they have is they have Bortland going to the hospital, creating this bullshit story. And why would he do that? He's covering for Melly or covering for himself. And the defense is going to try to hang that jacket on Bortland. In their opening statement, they sort of spread it out amongst a bunch of people, right? But mark my words, I would be really shocked if Bortland did not testify. I thought that Mrs. Holmes was going to be a little more of an effective witness than she was. She hates that fucking prosecution. She hates the prosecution. Why does she hate the prosecution? Because they put an ankle bracelet on her. They had her arrested. They've ruined her life. You remember her saying that? So anything can happen. Anything can happen. We don't know exactly. We're not part of the behind-the-scenes negotiations between Bortland and the prosecutors. But he's looking at life too. So I would be absolutely shocked if he did not testify. So, and keep in mind, these digital leashes, all the cell phone towers and the GPS locations of where you are, when you are there, and that's powerful evidence. And it's almost irrefutable. So if you take a look at this poll, which was a live poll, 48,000 people roughly were polled. And now these are people who are heavily invested into this, and so you take it for a grain of salt. But 19% he's guilty. 74% say it'll be not guilty, and 6% say it'll be a hung jury. Way too early to even ask that question. Just way too early. But it is kind of interesting to see where people's heads are at. Because if you remember Friday, that prosecutor got her fucking ass handed to her by the defense. I mean, she did not know how to deal with Miss Holmes, and she was beside herself. I guarantee you, she went home Friday night and had a stiff glass of wine or something. And she was pissed off at Miss Holmes. I'm glad I wasn't anywhere near her when she ended her day on Friday. So, but it is interesting to see people's reactions. So why don't you tell us what you think about our analysis, and tell us what you think. I'm sure some of you are watching the coverage. So let us know in the comments where you think this case is going to go. But these prosecutors aren't dumb. They're a little inept at what they did on Friday, and hopefully, if they have their shit together, it won't repeat itself. But the defense lawyers, the old guy with the beard, white guy, fantastic. His other lawyer, fantastic. They seem like they know what they're doing. In fact, I know they know what they're doing. They're good lawyers. And, he asked one question on Friday, and she stepped in a big pile of dog shit. So, and that was kind of a young person's mistake. You can't take that bait, because it's not a contest. It's like, what information do I need to present to the jury to make my points? And if I can't make my points, I don't need to have a pissing match with a witness that's uncooperative. Better off just get her off the stand and move on, because it is what it is. So this has been our reaction to another update for the Melly trial. We'll keep following it. So make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. 23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God?